Hello, this is a quick recap of points I dealt with on session 2 when I gave the in-house session, which was yesterday, Friday, and I raised some topics, and I thought it would be beneficial to everyone if I did a short video to highlight the topics that I dealt with in the one-on-one session at Malabar Farms Food Service. The first thing we spoke about was discipline. That in your managerial role, you have to discipline your team members in making sure that they follow the company's policies, procedures, process, and best practices. And I went on to say that very often we don't discipline our team members because of fear of not being liked. And I highlighted that as a supervisor, you must aim to be respected, not necessarily liked. That a supervisor who is overly concerned about being liked will not discipline his team or her team, and therefore the team will run its own course. So as a supervisor, aim to be respected but not necessarily liked. And therefore, a big part of your productivity will depend upon your ability to get your members to follow policies, procedures, process, and best practices. And if persons in your team do not follow those, then you have to initiate disciplinary action according to the process of increasing discipline. We also spoke about that many times the reason why team members do not follow through on the policies, procedures, process, and best practices is because they are inadequately trained. And I spoke at length about making sure that you are constantly educating and training and coaching your team members to make sure that they can perform each of the tasks of their particular job to a high standard. I introduced that the Ritz-Carlton method speaks about certification, that each employee must be certified that they can perform a particular job function properly. And this certification means that you, as their team leader, has ensured and has observed and can confirm that that team member can perform each of the tasks in a particular job. Each job has many tasks. And as team leader, you are to ensure that each member of your team can perform all of the tasks of a particular job. When they can do that, you can say that they are certified in that particular job. And therefore, you have ensured that they know how to practice and perform the tasks of their job. And therefore, if they do not, then they can be disciplined for not following through on the manner in which they are supposed to perform the tasks. I also spoke about this period in which they are being ensured that they can perform and coached to each of the tasks of their job should be part of the orientation program. And your orientation program within your team should ensure that that period in which I am considering that before someone is fully certified in a particular job. So let's say you get a new member of your team. That new member of your team, you have to go through an orientation process in which you ensure that that new team member can knows how to and can perform each of the tasks of their job. And that can be done during a period which you will call an orientation program. This orientation program can or possibly does not form part of the company's orientation program, but it is your orientation for them into your team, so that it may be longer than the company's orientation program, but it is for you to ensure that that team member is fully equipped to perform his or her tasks in that particular job. If it is that you can ensure that that employee is certified, that team member is certified to perform the tasks of that particular job, then it becomes easier for you as the team leader to carry out the performance appraisal. It is very challenging to conduct a performance appraisal if you are not totally sure that this particular team member has been adequately trained, adequately prepared, and knows what is expected of him or her. If it is that they are properly formed, properly trained, properly educated in the tasks of their job, and they know how to follow companies' policies, procedures, process, and best practices, then if they fall short, they will accept the performance appraisal. And finally, I touched on the need for documentation. That all of these tasks, as part of your administrative or managerial role as a supervisor, must be documented. That as a supervisor in your managerial administrative role, you must become very adept and willing to document things. Do not rely on memory, or do not rely on only hearsay or things that you said, but make sure that all important matters are well documented, and therefore you can produce a report on your performance in a particular period, for example, on a weekly basis or on a monthly basis. I also spoke about the importance of critical thinking as a supervisor. It is highlighted in session 2 in the reading literature, but I touched on it just on the basis of saying that a supervisor must not operate on hearsay or intuition or feelings, but must follow through with any thoughts or intuition or feelings that you have with proper critical thinking. Again, it is in the literature of session 2, but critical thinking basically is saying, I need time to analyze it. So do not be too quick to jump to conclusions, to make rash statements before you have engaged in critical thinking. Critical thinking says that you have examined all the evidence and matters of the particular problem, and you can therefore give proper assumptions and make a proper judgment. Far too often, supervisors make judgments on a particular scenario, situation, based on feelings, based on hearsay, and jump to conclusions before they actually engage in critical thinking. As a supervisor, you must be always postponing decisions until you have analyzed all the evidence. Otherwise, you will be prone to be making judgment based on likes and feelings and the way you feel about someone, or you like someone, or you dislike someone. So I would like to encourage you to suspend judgment and suspend jumping to solutions before you give it each particular scenario or situation critical thinking, that you have examined the facts that are available. And I encouraged the members that they should be willing to say, let me think about it. Do not make a judgment too quickly. When a situation arises, answer, let me think about it, and I will get back to you with my thoughts. Don't just shoot off, because when you shoot off your mouth before engaging in critical thinking, often you say things that are not accurate, that are not properly analyzed, and that you are making judgments most likely based on feelings of likes and dislikes.